just going to make 7 quick points tonight about high-stakes testing and how it's affecting our children with disabilities. As we all know, a very high percentage of our special needs children fail the Common Core test. We all know that. 95% of them fail the Common Core test. Quite frankly, as an educator, I look at something, if I give a kid a test in the classroom, 95% of the kids fail it in my classroom, I know something's wrong. I didn't make a very good test, I got to go back. We just know that. So something's wrong when you get 95% of children failing an exam, period. We know that a lot of what these education reformers are saying is that their reforms will usher in equity. And to me, when you get 95% of children failing an exam, there's nothing equitable about that at all. So the fact that they're saying this is about equity, it's not about equity. We all know what it's about. That you wouldn't be here if you didn't know that. We certainly expect them to be able to understand that equity means that you give kids what they need to be successful, and that all kids are not cut out of the same cloth. They're all unique. They all have their own abilities, and when you create something that causes 95% of them to fail, it certainly is not about equity. To me, I always liken it to this. If you're going to create an instrument to gauge learning that causes 95% of children of a certain group to fail it, to me, it's like taking a ramp away from the building and telling somebody with a wheelchair, you can figure out how to get in the building on your own. It's the same thing. So the equity piece of it, for me, drives me nuts. It's not about equity. The third point I want to make is that assessment experts, I could be up here all night quoting you studies, but I won't bore you with the details, but take my word for it. Equity experts have said there's nothing valid or reliable about a measure of what kids learn. The tests we know that they're taking are not diagnostic. If they were diagnostic, teachers would get them back, or districts would get them back, and be able to use them to help kids. How many of you would go to a doctor, you walk into the doctor's office, they run a bunch of tests on you, and say, I'm going to send these tests away, you're going to get the results in 5 months, but we're not going to be able to tell you what's wrong with you. Would you go to a doctor like that? Of course you wouldn't. So the fact of the matter is, these tests are not diagnostic. Teachers don't get them back. My son has not taken a test since 3rd grade. He took the first day of the ELA in 3rd grade, and when he got in the car and I said, how'd it go, buddy? He goes, oh, Mommy, I don't know. He goes, they wrote that test. I think my teachers were trying to trick us because there was more than one right answer. He thought his teachers wrote those tests. Done. So he got a 1. Actually, I don't even think he got a 1. I think he got a 0, actually. That's all we got back. So there was nothing in those results that were going to tell us what we needed to do to further instruction of him. So the tests are not diagnostic. And certainly with children with disabilities, you need diagnostic data, I hate to use that word, I'm sorry, to help them. Number 4, as we know, teachers don't get the scores back, we don't get them back to help kids. That's not even with kids with disabilities, it's even with regular ed kids. The high-stakes tests that we're facing, we know that they're abusive for most of our kids. When you test a child 2 to 3 grades above the grade level, sorry, to me that's abusive. You set them up to fail. Take that now and amplify it for a child, and I can speak to my son. My son works about a grade level below. So now take that, so he's having to work 3 to 4 grade levels above himself, plus getting double time. So if he were to sit for tests, which he does not, that's 3 days of ELA with double time, so it's 9 hours in those 3 days. Then he's got to take math the next day, so that's 18 hours of instruction that he's missed to take a test that's not used to help him. So the tests are abusive. They label the kids as scores, and we don't get the data back. The 6th thing I want to talk about is the new diploma that the state is now offering, which is an insult, and any parent that is a parent of a child with disabilities really needs Aurora to Albany about this. This diploma was phased in with the Common Core. It's passed in anticipation that fewer children with disabilities would meet the requirement to graduate. So they know, possibly, could 90% of our children with disabilities now not graduate from high school? What are we going to do with them? Let's create a new diploma that's going to funnel them to really menial jobs. I want my kid to go to college. I want him to go to trade school. What if he wants to enter the military? He's not going to be able to do any of that if he gets a CDOS diploma. So that's something that we have to be very, very aware of. My final point, what can you do? I know that if you've been to forums or you've been to anything, you're going to hear this, but you have to do it. They're hearing us. Please call your lawmakers, make an appointment, and visit them. They need to see your face. And I want to tell you just a quick story. Last summer, the Badass Teachers had a rally outside of the U.S. Department of Education. We had probably close to 1,000 people there, 38 states represented. And the guy that I was working with at the U.S. DOE said to me, "Do you want Secretary Duncan to come out and address the crowd?" And I said, "No, we don't like him. We don't want him here. Please don't tell him to come out." "Well, do you want to go in and meet with him?" "No, we don't want to meet with him. But we would like to meet with the Civil Rights Department." And we did. They brought 6 of us into the U.S. DOE after the rally. We were having a really nice meeting with the Civil Rights Department. And Secretary Duncan walked in about 30 minutes into the meeting. He was white as a ghost. He was eating a granola bar. Half of it was sticking out of his mouth. And I'm going to tell you, the reason I tell you this story is they need to see your face. Lawmakers need to see you walk into their offices and see your face and see your anguish and your fear. Because what Arnie Duncan saw that day was 6 very angry people. He sat next to Shanice Reynolds, who was a mother from Chicago, who had to fight to have her school stay open. And the look of disgust that she gave him when he sat next to her was priceless. Nobody welcomed him. We didn't take pictures with him. We didn't even acknowledge him when he entered the room. But we let him have it. They need to see your face. So please go in and see your lawmakers and tell them this has to stop. That's very important. That's a lesson I learned from Arnie Duncan. Make an appointment, go in. You can get your talking points from nicesafe.org. There's tons of stuff on that website. The other thing I think is important for parents, reach out to your local unions. Reach out to them. They're in the same boat. And a lot of people get very angry when I say this. I'm a mommy, but I'm also a teacher. In many ways, our hands are tied. A lot of our power is now coming from our mommies. And reach out to your local union and say, what can I do? Can I make a forum? What can I do to help you? And I think that's very important. So that's sort of my message about special needs and other sorts of things.